welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be sharing 5 cards using different stenciling techniques, using this gift that comes free with the latest creative stamping magazine. So this is obviously what we're going to be using the most, the stencil set. So you've got the daisies, the stems and this pattern, and then you also get this big stamp set as well. So you've got all the florals, sentiments from birthdays to Easter, you've got kind of more religious motifs and the kind of cutesy Easter motifs. So for this card I'm going to make a pattern with this part of the stencil. So I'm going to mask off the rest of the stencil. I'm also going to attach it down. So I'm kind of putting this roughly in the middle. I've got a 5 by 5 inch piece of cardstock, but I'm going to cut that down. I find it easier to work on a bigger piece and then cut it down in case I make a mistake around the outside. So then I'm going to grab my spiced Marmalade distress ink and a blending brush, and I'm going to add the distress ink through the stencil. I'm kind of going to use this initial layer a bit like a template. So then I'm going to move the stencil around to create a pattern across the cardstock. So I'm going to use the guide from the middle piece, and I'm going to line up this piece here with the bit I've already stenciled and stencil it again. And I'm going to carry that on until I've covered the whole piece of cardstock. So now we've got this really cool panel, and then what I want to do is isolate these kind of floral areas here. So I'm going to use this yellow tape. So then I'm going to pop this back over here, and then I'm going to grab some of this Prom Queen Lunar paste, which I've never actually used before, and I'm just going to add a bit through the stencil. So then I'm going to pull that up, and that looks really pretty. So I'm going to wait until that's dried, and then I'm going to finish off going round there. So then I'm going to move on to these leafy bits, and to do that I'm going to use the fake plant Lunar paste. So I'm just going to do exactly the same and just run that over just like you would with any of your kind of normal pastes. It's really important to let it dry between each go, so I'm doing a lot of this off screen so that I can let it dry in between each one. But you can start to see on that pink that's already dry and the green bit in the middle, it's so shiny and beautiful. And then because I've already got that middle one done, I'm going to do this one at the same time before I let it all dry again. So now this piece is finished, and you can see it looks really pretty and really shiny as well. So I just want to pop my sentiment at the top. I'm going to use that happy birthday sentiment in because I really like it. The font's really nice and it's a good size for this card as well. So I'm going to pop that up here, and then I'm going to use this primary evergreen wow embossing powder. So then we've got that. So then I've got a yellow 5-inch square card blank. I've got a pink piece 1/4 of an inch smaller than that, and then I've cut this white piece down so that it's 1/8 of an inch smaller than the pink piece. I'm just gluing those all together to finish my card. So then that's that card finished. So then for this next card, I take the happy birthday sentiment from the pack, and I'm going to stamp that onto a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock. So then I've got a piece of masking paper, which you can see I've stamped on before, but that's fine because we're just masking with it. And I'm going to stick that across here. So this is a 1 inch by 4 inch piece of masking paper. And then what I'm going to do is grab a fine liner pen and I'm going to draw around these daisies. So then I'm going to just move my stencil and do the same again. I've decided to take the sticky mat out of my stamp wheel. I thought it'd be easier to use that to hold the stencil in place. It's quite a detailed stencil. And then I'm going to continue moving and tracing until I've got the front of the card covered. So that's all of those stencils. Now I'm going to take away this mask. So you can see how pretty that looks now. So I've added some colour onto there with my alcohol markers. So they're all Altenew markers. I've used Pinkalicious and Rubelite for the petals and then Polar Bear to outline it with. So then I'm going to bring in my Wow Embossing Pen and I'm just going to colour in the centre of each of these flowers. And I'm going to do this one centre at a time. So I'm going to colour the centre, then I'm going to add on bonding powder, which is like powder that when it's heated it's sticky, but it's only sticky while it's hot. So that's why I'm doing it one centre at a time. So I'm going to heat it, but then I'm going to have my Wow Yellow Flock ready because I want to pop that on as soon as this is heated. So you can tell the bonding powder is melted when it goes kind of smooth, and then I'm just going to rub on that flock. You just want to rub it in and then tap the excess off, and then you get a lovely texture to the centre of those flowers. So now we've got this really gorgeous card front. So then all that's left to do is just to glue that onto my card front. And then there we've got a really beautiful card. So for this next card we're going to make an Easter card. And I have cut some Genie K Masking Magic, some masking sheet with an oval die. And we're going to be using this stamp from the set, so I've just made sure that my oval die is big enough to fit that in. So then I'm going to add this onto here. And then I'm going to add this to the corner of my card. So you can see I've masked off this kind of pattern piece. And I'm going to use Festive Berries Distress Oxide ink first. And we're going to create kind of a bit of a ombre type look across the card. So I'm just going to add some of that on. My mask's here, so I don't need to worry about that bit. And I'm going to take that off. And then I'm going to move the stencil down. And I'm going to line it up, that top bit. And then I'm going to stencil it again. And I'll just line it up again. So then I'm going to move that across. And I'm going to change brushes because this time I'm going to go in with this fossilised amber. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to take off any excess ink with a baby wipe. So I use the fossilised amber. And then it's only the top and the bottom that we need to worry about here because everything else is covered by the mask. And I'm going over the red as well, so that you kind of get a blend from the red into the like yellowy colour. And then I'm going to move across to the other side, and this time I'm going to use the mustard seed. So now we can take off this mask. So then I'm going to put this into my stamp wheel. And I'm also just going to hold the card together with a little bit of tape. And that's just because I want to be able to stamp this nice and accurately. So I'm going to ink that up with some black ink. And then I'm going to colour this with my alcohol markers. So now I've got that coloured, and then I'm just going to heat emboss this "Spring has sprung and Easter is here" sentiment onto some black cardstock. And I'm going to heat emboss that with my opaque bright white superfine embossing powder from Wow. And then I'm going to cut that out. And I'm just going to pop some foam pads behind there. And then there's that card finished. So for this next card, I've got a pink 5-inch circle, and I want to just stencil some daisies onto it. So I'm going to add that on there. I'm just going to mask off the other parts. You see, I'm reusing some of this tape, so I don't want to be using new stuff each time. So then I'm going to use this tool, which actually I got given as something for makeup, but I don't really use those kind of things for makeup, and so that's quite a useful crafting tool. So I'm just going to add some white acrylic paint to that, and then I'm just going to pounce it through the stencil, because this is just going to be a background. I don't want it to be too kind of full on, so I want the colour without it being kind of too much. So now you can see we've kind of got a nice subtle look. And then I'm going to add it on again around here. Because I'm just adding it on very thinly, I'm not too worried about adding this over there because it's already pretty much dry. And then this is going to be one final one over here. So then I'm just going to use this Fresh Lemon Altenew Artist Marker just to go over the centre bits. Because we've added that white on, then you get a nice true yellow look that you wouldn't get if you're going straight onto the pink. Then I'm going to take some of this pink cardstock, and I'm just going to trace through these daisies with a pencil. And I'm actually just going to trace through this whole one 3 times. I don't want this partial one. So now I've got my 3 daisies. I'm just going to pop out a little bit of acrylic paint. I'm just going to paint them. And as I'm painting them, I'm kind of filling in the gaps between the petals. And then I'm going to use this gold paint to do the centres. So then I'll leave those to dry and then cut them out. So then there are my 3 flowers all cut out. So now I've got this pink circle that's about 3 inches, and I'm going to stamp this Sending Birthday Wishes. They're all separate stamps onto it. I'm going to actually heat emboss them. So I'm going to pick these up one at a time and just heat emboss them onto there. So then I'm going to grab my opaque bright white superfine embossing powder, and then I can heat that up. Then I've got a white circle, a size bigger, and I'm going to add that onto there. So then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer, and I've got another 5-inch pink circle. I'm going to pop it in at 1/2 inch, and I'm going to cut that 1/2 inch off, and that will help the card stand up properly. Then I'm going to line that up at 4 inches, and then I'm going to score that top bit. So then what I'm going to do is just fold that over, put a bit of glue above that line. Then I'm going to add this onto there, and that'll create my card blank. You can see then we've got that nice flat line for it to rest on then, so it'll stand up nicely. So then I'm going to add this panel on with some foam pads. And then I want to add my flowers on. So I'm going to glue them on, adding a bit of glue to the one side and some foam pads to the other side. So it will glue to the middle and have foam pads to add to the rest of the card. So then we've got this pretty daisy card. So then for my final card, I'm just going to squeeze out just a little bit of embossing ink re-inker, and I'm just going to add it to one of these little smoothie tools, and then I'm going to just dab that through the stencil. And then let's heat emboss those flowers. And I'm going to go clean my stencil. Okay, so I used this way before, so now I'm going to flip it and put it like this, and then I'm just going to do this flower here. Then I'm going to use the same method to put some stems on. Now I'm just going to extend this one here because obviously it's not very long once it's come all the way down there. So then I'm going to add on this primary evergreen embossing powder. So then I'm going to grab this yellow alcohol marker, and because it's an alcohol marker it will go nicely onto the embossing powder. So I'm just going to go over that with my alcohol marker. So then I've got some of this yellow grosgrain ribbon and I tie a bow in it. Then I've got this sentiment that says, if there was no rain there would be no flowers. And I'm going to heat emboss that on the bottom of this piece of pink cardstock. And then I'm going to heat emboss that with white embossing powder. So I'm going to add this on with a glue dot and add this on with some foam pads. Then that's quite a cute card. So then there are all 5 of today's cards. I really hope you enjoyed making them with me. Please do let me know which are your favourites in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below. There's also a link there to my blog where you can find a picture supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.